Hello, everyone. Welcome to Q&A with Qlik. Today's topic, we're going to be addressing questions about Qlik Cloud Analytics Administration. I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Troy Rainey. I work putting together webinars and videos like this one. And we've got a great expert panel for you today. Let's just go around and introduce ourselves. Daniela, why don't we start with you?
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Daniele, as Troy said. I've been for Qlik for more than 10 and a half years now. And yeah, I've been working mostly with cloud cases in the past 4 or 5 years, and I'm kind of one of the leading experts on the matter.
Great. Umberto.
Hello, guys. My name is Umberto. I'm a technical adoption specialist. Joined back after 4 years of pauses. I'm joined back Qlik in 2022. I work in Barcelona and helping you guys taking the best out of Qlik.
Great. Thank you, Umberto. And Vinay.
Hey, hello everyone. So I've been with Qlik for 5 years now, and I predominantly work with our Qlik Cloud Analytics cases and on the analytics side of Qlik Cloud. So yeah, that's it about my.
Perfect. All right. Well, when you registered, you had an opportunity to submit some questions at a time. So I'll start with some of those. First question. How is Qlik using AI? Daniela, do you want to start?
Okay, I can take this one. So Qlik has been using AI in some forms for a very long time. We've had Insight Advisor, and we had AutoML, which are more for structured data. We also have had in the client some AI solutions like suggesting the best chart. That was also AI. But now we've taken it to the next level with Qlik Answers, which is basically our answer to the challenges of generative AI. And we've seen that the adoption is growing there. So we really recommend that you talk with your salespeople about testing that, because it really takes the product to the next level.
Great. Yeah, I think that's a really cool feature. And everything seems to be about AI these days. Next question. For Qlik Cloud, are there any alternatives to the Operations Monitor app? Anybody want to take that one?
Well, I can take that one as well. We do have monitoring apps for the cloud. We have a number of them. The number is constantly increasing because we have more requests for that. They are developed by our pre-sales and consulting teams, and they usually provide all the useful information that you might need. I can show you maybe how they can be installed, because they can be installed very easily via automations. So
would you like me to stop sharing? Yeah, go ahead.
So just a second. I'm sharing my browser, and
okay, we can see your screen.
Yeah, you can see my screen. You do it via an automation. You create an automation. There is a specific template about monitoring apps. And it's this one.
There it
you
is.
Use this template, and
Well, we don't have to go through all the steps.
Yeah,
Is there anything?
we don't go through all the steps, but I can show you very quickly that and now it's a little bit slow. It automates basically all the steps that you need to go through, and it will ask you a few questions. You will go through the process, and then you'll be able to have all the monitoring apps installed.
I didn't notice when you started that. Did the template have a link to an article with some more information?
I think
A
It's
lot of those
gonna
templates
show
do have some
now.
additional info. Oh, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like you said, it walks you through all the steps.
Yeah, it walks you through all the steps, so it's actually pretty easy to use. We do have an article about the one that you were showing before, with all the different
I'm
apps
posting
that
it.
can be used, and I can stop sharing so that you can share it back.
And the newest app that was released recently is that report analyzer. That's a new one. Yeah, I
Yeah,
posted the link. Great. Thank you for sharing that. And here's that link to the article. That's great. All right, let's move on. Next question. How can user access be integrated with Active Directory from Azure?
Well, there is a very powerful article actually you could use.
Yeah, do you have a link already for that?
I think so, yeah. It's also included a video, so you can go through it. It's pretty straightforward, and it provides you all the information you need.
I feel like that came up. Umberto did a really great Techspert talk recently called Qlik Cloud Administration 101, where he walks through a lot of need to know stuff and settings and clarifies things with Qlik Cloud. I feel like we posted that as a reference. I'm trying to just, oh, there it is. Is this the article?
Yeah.
Great. I'll post that. Oh, yeah, you found it first. Thank you. All the steps there. All right, starting to come in live. So I'll take the first one. We have automated remote engine creation through Terraform using APIs. You guys familiar with that one? Because I'm not. We noticed new type dynamic engines where it's mentioned that engines can be set up through EKS. Is there a way to
I
automate dynamic engine creation through Terraform? Anybody familiar
I
with that
think here we are talking about Talend.
or want to address that?
Because I'm not a DI data integration specialist, so I cannot provide any type of information about
Yeah,
it.
that definitely feels like a QDI question.
But that is pretty much it's talking about the dynamic engine in Talend Cloud.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So I apologize, but if you guys haven't seen it on Qlik Community, there's a really great resource here called Forums, community.qlik.com. And in Forums, we've got over 200,000 active users there. And you can go in here, find an appropriate forum, and ask your question. If we don't have a good answer for you live today, you might be able to get some answers there. Just as an extra resource. I'll move on to the next question. In Qlik Cloud, is it possible to reassign private sheets to another user from personal space or shared space? This is required after users have been migrated from one ID to another ID. Any ideas on how that might be accomplished?
There are ways of achieving a situation where you need to have access to stuff that was owned by old users or things like that. There is an article on our Qlik Dev portal on how to do that. You do it via the Qlik command line, and there are ways of doing that. Let me just share the article. Should I just reply to the question?
No,
Type
you
the
could just,
answer.
if you could post it in the chat, I'll pick it up and share it, be
Okay.
able to share it with everybody.
So it's not out of the box in the management console, but via the command line, there are ways of basically recovering content which is assigned to users that are not longer with the company, for instance. And
Yeah.
yeah, then you can make them available.
That's great. It's nice to know what's possible. Thanks.
Yes, I can just post the link about the API call, which is done inside the CLI command, as Daniele was commenting. But really, you need to go through the article and then yeah, set up an OAuth authentication, do the stuff. It's pretty easy.
Great. And speaking of CLI, the next Techspert Talk webinar in a couple weeks with Frank Savino will be all about using Qlik CLI to help administrate and manage Qlik Cloud via command line. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested.
Excellent
It is a
opportunity.
fantastic tool. I use it a lot, and I really recommend using it because it's a simplified interface for the API calls, and yeah, you can build the scripts around it, and it's actually great. And there is also an option that I always recommend using if you're trying to learn what is happening, is to use the -v option, which is the verbose one, and it will show actually which API calls the command line is using, and those API calls can be used in different contexts. So yeah, don't be afraid about using the command line.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that on November 14th. All different things you can do with Qlik CLI. All right. Next question. It was something already addressed. Do we have an operations monitor app for Qlik SaaS? And we showed that. Oh, I got too many links open. But this is the article with a list of all the apps available, and we even showed the animation how to load that. So move on.
Just to make it clear, it's not exactly equivalent of the monitoring of the client managed apps, but it is different apps that offer different functionalities, and sometimes it's also good the fact that it loads information from your tenant, and if you don't have a sheet that shows exactly what you would like to see, you might still build your own in the app using the same information and be able to see what you need to see.
Yeah. Next question. What are the selling points we could say to our customers in order for them to upgrade from QlikView to cloud? That's a great question.
That's a classic one. Well, there are many aspects. I guess Vinay and Daniele will like to add more, but basically one of the most important selling point is that you'll get rid of all the maintenance you may have to do on QlikView in terms of hardware and IT administration. On top of that, as well as you will move into a Qlik Sense managed for Windows, you would have a brand new or last state-of-art technology in terms of visualization and data analytics tool, because QlikView is an old tool. So of course we know how good it was, but the way Qlik Cloud and Qlik Sense before, then Qlik Cloud present data analytics is a lot more modern, easily to manage, easily to understand, and to explore in terms of business users.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I used to say that QlikView is old generation and Qlik Sense is new generation. But now that we have Qlik Cloud with the new functionalities that are available, I would say that even Qlik Sense is old generation. So QlikView is almost 2 generations ago. It's really great. And then, of course, it's also the fact that, I mean, we are continuing offering QlikView, but there's not going to be any new feature in that. So
yeah, I mean, it's a very mature product, so it doesn't really need any new features, but you're correct. All of our development now is with cloud.
And again, what I said, the main point is that you just log into a web page and you start working on it. You don't have to install a server, think about upgrading, making sure that connectivity between servers inside your intranet is okay, and so on and so forth. You save a lot of money, a lot of money.
Great point. And I just put this resource up here, migrating QlikView to Qlik Cloud. That was a Techspert talk that was put together by Jonathan Poole a while back, and he outlines what that strategy might look like and a lot of tools and resources that are available for you. Posted that link there. Next question. Are there third-party solutions you can recommend for Qlik Cloud application backup? I understand there's no tenant backup, so we want to export the apps and save them in Azure storage, as an example.
So we cannot recommend anything specific, but I've seen that on the community there are several partners that they are offering their own solutions. So I've seen even recently a post that was updated with a partner saying, now we have this solution, you can check it out. So just have a look into the community. If you don't find specifically what you're looking for, ask about it. You're going to get several partners that are providing those kind of solutions. So yes.
Yeah, maybe under the deployment management forum.
I think it was in a move to SaaS, or I don't know. I saw recently someone replying to a case.
Well, one of the coolest tools with Qlik Community is kind of hiding in plain sight, the search bar right there in the middle. That will search across Qlik Community, help.qlik.com, a few different YouTube channels. So this is a great tool right there in the middle. So take a look there.
Yeah, I mean, we can use automation as well to back up your apps on like daily basis, or whenever the apps are getting reloaded. You can just, there are templates that are already inbuilt in automations when you want to back up your apps to any of the cloud storages like Azure, as requested, or Google Drive, anything that you want to do. There's an already existing template that you just have to select and then replace the storage block that you need.
That's a great tip. Thank you.
Let me share the link.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that one is specifically for, backing up the apps to GitHub, but yeah, you can just replace that with any of the cloud storages.
Fantastic. Thank you. One question slipped into the chat, and I'll read it before I lose track of it. How to assign entitlements to users using automations based on a parameter passed through JWT? I don't know if that's really necessary, but does anyone want to address that? Maybe, I'm sure there's a reason for that.
I mean, it might be possible. It's probably possible. I don't know. I think this is a question that would be better for the community, where surely someone has already found ways of doing that. You might also consider that with the capacity licensing model, which is the newer model that we're using, some of the assignments is done automatically. If you just assign users permission on a space, it will automatically get the full user. Of course, if we're still talking about the old model, where the one with professional and analyzer users, then you might you should. There are definitely ways of doing some ways of automatic assignments. I would recommend you to post in the community and check that.
Great. Okay, next question. We have a direct access gateway installed on a server to access our SQL database. I see in the setup best practices, it's recommended to not use the same direct access gateway for development, use acceptance testing and production, as this will increase the risk of overloading the available resources and impact system stability. With this in mind, is the only way to accomplish this by performing the installation on two different servers that can access the same SQL database? We only have one server that meets the system requirements to house all the data gateway, so we're not able to install on two separate machines. So talking about direct access gateway, which is a great tool if you're not familiar with it, to access on-premise data to the cloud.
Well, I mean, yes, you really need to use another server if you want to follow up the best practices. The reason for best practices is because we don't want development overloading the production data gateway. Say that you are serving, some spaces, some business users via data gateway and periodically reload apps on managed space, for instance. And then one developer set up by mistake or to experiment, set up a huge query, which is gonna kind of block the data gateway or make it crash, even crash in terms of connection, not in terms of hardware going down. Now, if the developer was using another data gateway, the business user would not be affected by this experiment the developer did. But if they are both using business users and developers the same data gateway, the risk may arise because some unpredictable condition of working that the data gateway undergoes. So this is a best practice, and again depends on your organization, on the way you work, because if you have 5% of development working with a data gateway, and you know that the amount of developers are limited and they have their own working structure, maybe you just don't care about the best practices. There are best practices out there, but they are not mandatory. So you need to consider plus and cons and keep an eye.
That's a good point. I mean, those are in place just to keep your production safe and unaffected. But if, your developers are careful and there's only a little bit of it going on, it's all up to you. Next question, and I really like this one. We're about to set up a tenant with IdP. And the question is, if entitlement is assigned to a user and that user in the IdP, the Active Directory, is removed, is there a way to automatically release that assigned entitlement, or does it have to be done manually?
Automatically.
Yeah. So if a user is in Azure, has entitlement assigned to them, and suddenly that user leaves the company, is no longer in Active Directory, won't that entitlement still be assigned to them, and how to release it?
Yeah, in that case, if you wanna delete it to be synced with Qlik Cloud, you'll have to use SCIM, which is available in Azure.
There you go.
But yeah, if you are not using SCIM, you will have to manually delete the user in Qlik Cloud. Otherwise, the access or the license allocation will still, will be remaining active.
All right. Well, at least there's in one IdP, there's a tool available for that. That's good. And that's SCIM, right? SCIM.
Yes, I'll share the article on how to set that up, but it's a premium feature of Azure, so it might have to be additionally purchased if you don't already have it in the subscription of Microsoft.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Next question. Oh, thanks. And here's that article, configuring SCIM, and I'll share that with everybody. Okay. Next question. Is there any R&D being put into the bookmark functionality? A common request is to group bookmarks by department. It'd be great if there was a native functionality to have bookmark hierarchy where users could publish community bookmarks to spaces in that hierarchy. So, any developments you guys are aware of in bookmarks?
I,
I know. Go ahead.
I know that we are planning of improving even basic functionalities as the bookmark. I don't know if specifically there is something about this, but whenever you have a idea for a functionality, use our ideation portal. It's great because our product team follows that, and sometimes for some functionalities we will need some consensus from customers and users. So the more users vote for an idea, the more that idea will probably be implemented. But sometimes even just posting an idea might ring a bell for anyone in the product team, and then they just might think, oh, this is a good idea, we'll create an improvement about that. So do not hesitate to use that, create new ideas, vote the existing ones. I keep recommending people to do it, because sometimes there are things that are whenever I talk with customers, they are very requested, but then I go and check the idea, and there has not been much activity on that. Whenever you think something is needed, don't be afraid, go to the ideation page and vote for ideas.
Yes. Program management looks constantly to the suggested idea page, and is one of the point of reference because Qlik has always been looking after customer requests rather than proposing them itself. First eyes are on what customers request, and this is why we keep a great eye on the suggested idea portal.
Great. I totally agree. Next question. Are there any tools to manage user assignment in bulk, or is this best handled via external database with a connector?
Yeah, I can take that. It depends upon your scenario. Like if you are migrating from our on-premise platform to Qlik Cloud, we know generally there's an issue with securities where you don't want users to see certain sheets depending upon their roles that you have in on-premise. We do have an automation that you can set it up to, manage the user authentication and accesses inside the apps that you already have or that you're migrating from on-premise to Qlik Cloud. It has a detailed guide on how you can achieve that, the sheet configurations and the level of roles that the users can have within the tenant, because the security wise it is different from what you've seen in the on-premise, because there are no security rules that you have in Qlik Cloud. It is basically the roles that you can assign to the users so that that they can see the sheets and the data within. So we do have an automation that can take care of that part for you.
That's great. Thank you.
And then also, again, what do we mean by user management? No question. Say, for instance, you want to have a group of people to be assigned to a space. That's a user management. You can do it nowadays in Qlik. So, it should be further refined, the answer, in order to give a better.
Sure.
So it should be refined, the question to give a better answer.
Well, let's move on. There's lots of questions. Let's see if we can get through them all. Next question. There are third-party tools to integrate Qlik Cloud with GitHub for version management. Does Qlik plan to do any kind of integration itself?
I mean, we posted a few minutes ago an article about how to use Qlik with GitHub, and yeah, that's the one. And you can use it for versioning, or for you can roll back to a previous version, and there is already some integration done via automation. So if
Yeah,
you
there's
need,
even some videos about how to set that up as well. I remember long ago when automation was new, we did a demonstration of that in a webinar that I did. So there's definitely some resources out there using automation for version control. Great. Next question. Is it possible to have two developers work at the same time on a shared app in the same space?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and in
And we have refined even further compared to the QlikSense Windows the way two or more users can work on a shared space. For instance, script level. We have a concurrent level, concurrency level algorithm which detects whether one user is using the same section of the editor and is
yeah,
informing the other. So
I was trying to find where, because Umberto, you demonstrated that functionality so you can actually see what it looks like from two different users' perspectives when they're both in the script of the same app at the same time, what it looks like.
now they
And
can go to the tech talk and check that.
yeah, I'll
Should be
post this
fine.
link. Moving on, next question. Do you have any good principles regarding the ownership of resources, for example, automations, reload schedules, etc.? Since you can't modify owner of a published application and you can't modify a schedule without taking ownership of the schedule, the current model can add some challenges. Well, I don't think you need to be the owner to manage automations, reload schedules. You can just expand the rights based on roles. But anyone else
No.
want to address that?
Yeah, I mean, for the automations, you have to be the owner to, run the reloads or the trigger the automations. But with regards to the reload schedules for the apps in the managed space, user with certain roles can, access the data connection and set up their reload schedules, but you can't modify the existing, reload schedules which are set up by a different user. Yeah, that is with regards to the automation. I have seen there's some work going on like sharing the automation similar to what we have in spaces like shared spaces where multiple users can access the same automations. But yeah, as far as I know, that is still work in progress. So I don't have like certain updates that I can share here. But yeah, it is
All right.
something that we should post in ideation. I've seen there's an ideation, but I don't have the
The
link
link
ready
to it.
with me, right? Yeah.
Well, that's great. But yeah, please take a look at ideation and see if you can find that suggestion and give it some votes.
we
And
know
also,
that it's coming for sure, the having shared application, shared automation. So it's just a matter of time.
yes,
Great.
I mean, targeted will be December, but it's not confirmed yet. And also, as far as if you can take ownership or change owner of published apps, that's not true nowadays. As Daniela mentioned, you can use a CLI command in order to change the owner of a published app. Is a
That's great.
different CLI call, obviously, compared to the one we mentioned earlier, but you can do it.
That's
I'm not
great
sure
to know
about the
that's possible.
schedule, actually. That's a good point.
Next question. This one I found in the chat. I just want to address it before we move on too far. Will there be a way to have different authentications set up in a single tenant? Similar to virtual proxies can be set up with the enterprise environment. So looking for multiple
Not
IdPs.
at the moment. So any idea that you might have on that, make sure to report it on ideation. We have now a new feature which is called anonymous access, that it will not be about the same tenant. You will get an extra anonymous access tenant. And that is good for whoever wants to publish QlikSense mesh apps or apps to external users. So you can talk with your account team and see if it's something that will work for you. Because in that situation, the two tenants will be integrated with each other. One will be for the anonymous access, and for the other one for the IdP that you're using. Of course, the service account owner can at any moment log in using Qlik ID on the tenant. So that's always an option, and they can change the IdP, but at the moment there is no support for multiple IdPs.
Great. That's very thorough. Thank you. It's nice to hear more about the anonymous access as well. Next question. Is there a feature on Qlik Cloud that checks the data model or queries against best practices to help increase performance and avoid messy, nested expressions that might impact performance? I'm not sure if there's any checks on the script when you're creating a data model, but
Not on the script level, but once the data is loaded, you can do the app evaluations that is available already. That kind of tells you like which objects are taking like longer time to load, which expressions might need some adjustment. We do give those suggestions on the engine level, but it's not available within like when you're developing a script or checking the data model.
but when you're adding new data, it does actually do those checks. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the app evaluation does does those checks on existing load data that you have already loaded. It
Okay.
cannot predict the new loads. The run will happen on the existing data that has been reloaded successfully the last time. Like if you are currently the data is reloading, that will not be included, but it's gonna take a consideration on the existing data that is already loaded into the app.
Great. Thanks, Vinay. Next, a little follow-up just came up into that. Can you post what Vinay said on the checks? Do you have any resources or links about that?
Yes.
That might be available in the help, I get, perhaps, but
Yes.
thanks. While you're digging up that, I'll read the next question. What are the best practices for enabling the large apps capacity in spaces? One of our clients' environment, we're implementing an all shared and managed space, just in case, but it feels like it's not the best way to do it. Are there any possible downsides to doing so, enabling in all spaces?
Well, what I can say is that really the large apps feature should be used to target the critical apps. So if you have apps which presumably will go over the quota limit, say 5 or 10 gigs, depending on the type of subscription, then obviously you make sure that that app will take advantage of the large apps. But that means assigning the large apps to one specific space rather than all spaces. Okay. This should provide a better utilization of the large apps mechanism. Then again, I'm not quite sure why they are saying it feels like it's not the best way to do it. Because technically, if you assign large apps all spaces and there are just few apps using the large apps, it wouldn't matter if you have more spaces assigned the large apps feature because they wouldn't use it. So I'm not quite sure whether this question, this assertion is coming from. We should further investigate it a little bit more. Unless you guys, Vinay, Daniela, would like to add more insights.
Great. Thank you for that. Next question. Is there any way outside of the APIs to see which reload tasks are currently in the queue? Additionally, understanding the queue depth would give us a better sense of how long it might take for a job before a job reloads. So would anybody have a good idea behind how to
So,
see what's going on there?
by the way that because of the way that the cloud is built when it comes to the queue, there is always the risk that when a task is run at the top of the hour, it's gonna be queued. So if you set it, especially if it's morning in the morning when lots of people come in, then we recommend maybe running it a few minutes earlier or later, so that will avoid being queued, because it's more probable that people will run tasks at specific times. So that's the recommendation that we have at the moment.
Great. Next question. Are there any plans to make Qlik storytelling available across apps in one space? This way you can make a Qlik story and use dynamic snapshots from different apps in the same story. Ooh, that's sounds like
That's a
something
good
for
idea.
ideation. Yeah.
I like it. I don't know if there is a suggested idea. For sure, it's not possible, but yeah.
Yeah. And again, that was here on Qlik Community. If you go to, I think it's support, ideation, browse and suggest, you can find your way to this space, and that is a great idea. Next question. Are there any plans to allow users to reload apps from a managed space without needing permission in the space in which the connection lives? I know automations can be used, but we're limited by the quota. Yeah, anyone want to address that? I believe there's maybe that is the automation with, like, you can actually build an app with a button to trigger
Yeah,
a user reload, but
yeah. I mean, you can
that
use
has
automation,
risks.
but yeah, I mean, you can use the automations, but they have already hit the quota for their automation. So without granting people access to the space, it's not possible for them to reload unless you are using an automation buttons to reload the app. It's not possible.
Okay.
You need
Yeah.
to grant the space level access for the users to actually reload the app unless you are using a button. It's not possible.
Great. All right. Next question. Can you confirm if the platform SDKs for Python referenced are still being actively maintained? It appears there hasn't been a release in over a year, and we've noticed some bugs. They're talking about this one.
Yeah, there is a kind of delay in the development of this SDK. Yeah, confirmed.
Okay. Well, that is what it is. Next question. Is changing the reloads possible without automation?
Again, what do you mean?
That one just came in. Is chaining, sorry, I misread it. Is chaining the reloads possible without automation?
There are some external scriptings done by the partners or our consulting team, but it's not available for readily use case scenario that support can help you out with. I've seen some cases where professional services have done this external scripting for some clients, but there are no steps that are available on community or steps available with support that can be shared here.
I've
But yeah,
seen as
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen as well some partners mentioning their solution for chaining documents via API calls or other solutions. So that you might find something on the community. If you don't ask, and surely some partners will reach out to you with possible alternatives.
Okay, next question. Is there a QMC element in the cloud akin to what we have in QlikView? I'm not quite sure what that question was about, but
I mean, we do have the administration panel in
yeah.
the cloud. It doesn't. You cannot see all the running tasks in like you can in QlikView. So in QlikView, you go to the task section. You can see all the tasks. We don't have at the moment anything like that. There is a way of querying the running tasks via the API calls, so you can see which tasks are running. And I'm sure that some partners or some other people build solutions around this, so that you basically have something that you can use. This is also a great idea for ideation. I think it's already there. If not, make sure to add comments to it so that they can. If it's not there, please create a new one, so that the product team can look into that.
Okay, thank you. Next question. I have two applications, customer and region, and then I got two users, Peter and Will, in the same space. I want Peter to access the two applications, customer region, but Will can only access region. How can this be done in Qlik Cloud?
Well, the question, sometimes I have to ask to answer, and I understand that if you're on Windows, on Qlik for Windows, then obviously for you it's interesting to have different users accessing to the same stream, but being able to see only some apps inside the stream, which is where this call is coming from, this question. But in in Qlik Cloud, things are different. For sure, you can share one single app to a user. So in that sense, you don't need to have Will assigned to that space. You just right-click on the app and share the app specifically for that user or group of users. So in that way, you skip the space assignment, and you can use the space the way you want it with the people who are actually in need of accessing all the apps inside the space. But also, if there's any sophisticated assignment you want to do, you can also clone the space, because in Qlik Cloud you don't have the limit you may have in terms of space you used to have on Qlik for Windows. So for you, it doesn't really matter if you have two apps in two different spaces, which are access to different users, different group of users, just providing you different perspective. One is using the share option for a single user or group of users for a specific app. Or if you want to do something more sophisticated, you can play with spaces at will. Because at the end of the day, for you, it doesn't matter if you're using more spaces and you're duplicating apps. You're not going to have problems with the RAM, for instance, if you see what I mean. Because the RAM is available there. It's handled by Qlik Cloud, so who cares?
So I might add something. If you really want to keep both apps in one space and only have one user accessing that, you can always use section access. The other user will see the app, but they will not then be able to open it. They will get access denied to the app. It's not ideal, it's not what best practice, but if it's really your need and it's easier to do for you, you can always do that.
Great. We only have a few minutes left to see how many answers we can get through before we get to the top of the hour. Any NPrinting or alternative offerings supported apart from the subscription feature for Qlik Cloud? I just want to plug the latest Techspert talk was all about reporting, Qlik Cloud Reporting Evolution. And we had the product manager for reporting, Andrew Kruger, go through all the current features that are available with reporting and even tease a lot of stuff that's coming in Q4. So please take a look at that. There are a lot of reporting options out there. So I'll just post that link. Next question. Is it possible without the role of tenant admin to administer users? You may want to address that. There are some, I know that Umberto, you kind of broke down the permissions on Qlik Cloud and the roles that could be assigned so that there's more than just the tenant admin for administrating
It's
users.
a tenant admin who can handle users,
Oh, okay.
administer users. Yeah.
Then there are like the analytics administrator can manage resources, but not specifically users. So only tenant admins can.
Great. That's where you guys are the experts. Next question. In automation, I can't find any template about writing in Excel from visual table data that really works. Any suggestions? I'm not quite sure. Does anybody know?
I mean, instead of automation, you would need to use tabular reporting for this one.
Oh, that is a good tip. Tabular reporting. Yeah. So take a look at that reporting evolution, or there's another webinar out there about reporting where that is demonstrated, but that's a good idea. Next question. Can we connect Qlik Cloud to Talend Cloud and retrieve the changes done in Talend data preparation into a dashboard? I remember that question came up a lot in a recent Q&A with Qlik. Oh, where did I have that? Well, this is a good opportunity to bring up where to find the recording of Q&A with Qlik sessions. If you go to Discover Techspert Events, it'll bring you to this page where you can see upcoming events. And under the Past Events page, you'll be able to see a list of the recordings for previous sessions. And in one we did recently, all about Qlik Talend Cloud, that question came up quite a bit. And our experts went through how to do that. And there's definitely a way that's available. So please check out that recording. I'll just post the link while I'm here. Next question. I'm using Webhook automation to reload an app when a different specific app has successfully reloaded. Great feature. This automation that is triggered will always have a failed status, but the app does reload successfully. This happens because the webhooks only have allowed runtime of 15 minutes, but the app reload will take up to an hour. So the webhook is timing out and failing while the app is still able to reload. Do you have any suggestions on how better to address this case, since the webhook seems not to be designed for reloads that will take longer than 50 minutes?
The webhook triggers, I guess, another automation. But the webhooks, which is in turn another automation, okay, can have the blocks defined in the way that they start the reloading and they continue the process. In other words, let me share my screen so I show you what I mean.
Sure. I was about to suggest, like, maybe since they know that it takes regularly a long time, maybe they could put a pause in there.
So this is a reload apps in parallel, okay?
Right.
This would also fail if the reload of each single app, in this case, we are talking about 3 apps reloaded in parallel. Technically, they will fail, this automation will fail if the reload of each app takes longer than 15 minutes. But as you can see here in the block, the run mode is set up to start reload and continue. No, wait for the reload to complete. This is the difference. So this script, this automation will complete, but it will allow the app to proceed reloading. And in that way, you can turn the other automation on. Of course, you're gonna say, yes, but the other automation will have to wait until the app has completed to be reloaded, right? Again, you can make sure that you check the status of that apps if they are in a reloading status inside with some of these blocks. In the second automation triggered by the webhook. I'm not sure if I've explained that clearly enough, but in other words, you need to make sure that you launch the reloading and you continue processing the automation. Otherwise, the automation will fail, of course.
I think that was great. Thank you for sharing. So we're just about out of time. I want to thank our panelists. This has been really great. We appreciate all the great questions. And thank you so much for joining. Hope you have a great rest of the day and see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.